name is Thandiwe, and I'll be sharing with you a body of work I created for a residency at OMS Cape Town School of Photography. Before I start, I can't see everyone clearly, but I'd like you to put your hand up if you ever experienced sexual harassment in public spaces. I want you to put your hand up if you've experienced sexual harassment, catcalling this week. And I want you to look around you as well. Have you experienced catcalling yesterday? Today? Okay. So I have tons of stories I can tell about sexual harassment, being catcalled in the streets and public spaces, and being touched in parts of my body that are considered private. Now, these stories aren't unique to me, they're not unique to us, and they're not unique to South Africa. We live in a world that condones rape culture and brushes it off as just boys' locker room talk. Last year in South Africa, there were a group of students across institutes who were marching against sexual harassment in institutes of learning. They put their bodies on the line. And what were they met with? Cyberbullying, 2 minutes of media fame, and afterwards, the world continued as normal. So I'm going to share an experience with you that I had. I was coming from home, and I was going to Claremont or something, and I was waiting for a bus. So I'm waiting, minding my own business, and as I'm standing there, I see this truck. It was a big truck. It had a big billboard poster-like onto it. It had an image of a lady lying horizontally. She was naked, and her butt was protruding to the audience. And I'm looking at this image, and I'm unpacking it in my mind. I'm like, okay, this is very problematic. And as I'm looking at this, at the corner of my eye, I see a man, and he's coming towards me, and he walks behind me. He was carrying a bin that he was dragging. And as he walks behind me, he comes behind me, and he grabs my bum and squeezes it. Now, turned around, and impulsively, I swung a blow at him, but I missed. I missed, and I hit the bin instead. I was so angry, and the sound was so loud that it was vibrating inside the bin, and it echoed out. So he walks past me, and then he stands. And then he looks back, and he comes back for me. Now I'm angry. There are bricks at the bottom of me, and I pick them up. And I'm like, if you come towards me, I'm ready for you. And he starts walking towards me. And I'm like, if you come close to me, I will hit you, I will beat you, and then I'll take you to the police station and report you for sexual harassment. But he didn't stop. Now I'm getting scared. And I didn't want to hurt him because I knew that if I hurt him, he has evidence and he has scars. Sexual harassment, there's no scars, it's internal. So it's his scars versus my words. So I had the bricks in my hands, and I started throwing them at his feet, but he came closer. As soon as it was about a meter away from me, he looked at me and he was like, listen, I am sorry, I apologize. There was something about his apology that was very sincere and very earnest. I remember looking at him and thinking, okay, so you think that you are entitled to my body. Society has taught you that you are entitled to my body. And that experience kind of made me think about every single other experience that I had. I remember walking down Bree Street, not too far away from here, and I remember a man screaming at me that he wanted to lick me until I was wet and then impregnate me forever and ever so I can have multiple babies with him. I remember walking down the streets. I was 11 years old, in Nyanga, in passing. This man just touched my vagina. My first kiss came from a random stranger. I was in a public space. He leaped on me, threw his throat down my tongue. I was speechless. And back then, I didn't even know about consent. I learned about consent last year. I didn't even know that I could say no to him. So many of these experiences I'm conveying for the first time, because often it is very difficult to engage in this conversation because they're seen as petty. We can't even talk to our parents about them. So we numb the pain, we learn the art of silence, and we don't say anything. So when this happened to me, I went home and I created this work. I put this jacket on a line, I set it up, and I asked my mother to take a photograph. This photograph created a body of work. And when I was making that photograph, I was thinking about how, as bodies, these female bodies, we are considered as something that you consume. And often when things happen to us, we go out and we come back home and you say, okay, this happened to me. They're like, what were you doing dressed like that? Why were you wearing that? You wanted this. So for this project, I went around different places shooting. I was in Cape Town, I was in Durban, and I was in the Eastern Cape. And when I was on my way to Durban, I was in the bus sitting next to a lady. And we were just talking, we just happened to stumble on this issue of sexual harassment. She was telling me how in her age as well, she'd be going to school, she'd be harassed by random men. And that conversation was very important for me, because for the first time, I was talking to another elderly lady about sexual harassment, something I'd never done before. And after that, I made this. So the first time I ever learned about rape and sexual harassment, I was in a bath. My mother was giving me a bath, and I was about 4 to 5 years old. And she was telling me how I should never allow anyone to touch me on certain parts of my body. And I remember her exact words, never let anyone touch you here. Now there's something about that, what she said, that's really scared me. Bathrooms have remained the most scariest part for me in the house. I feel so vulnerable washing on my own, and I'm so afraid. So this is something I worked in my body of work, where I was looking at the spaces that offer comfort, but also these spaces are very scary. Places like homes are so homely, and you're supposed to be happy, but they're so traumatizing at the same time. And we are silenced in these spaces. So I'm not the only one who's scared of being at home and is traumatized by this space. My grandmother is too. I remember having a conversation with her as well, and she was saying how when she's alone in my home, she's afraid to sleep. When my 14-year-old male cousin is not there, she does not want to be raped. So she sleeps fully clothed, and she has weapons under her bed, because old women in her area get raped. So I went under her bed, and I found these weapons under her bed, and I took a photograph of them. Now, as much as these weapons symbolize a sense of fear, they also symbolize a sense of immense resistance and power, because this woman is protecting herself and just taking agency. So it happened that my mother as well has weapons under her bed. Now, you don't want to mess with her, because she's got a saw. So I was thinking about this idea of fighting back and all this, and I was like, okay, so I want to take photographs of myself in a space fighting this invisible monster. And I tried to create this process of having sticks and just fighting this person that I don't know and I can't see. And in making this work, I was thinking about something Dineo Ngola says about this idea of what would happen if these rape victims, these people who are harassed, started fighting back. And this is something Bell Hooks also speaks about how it is dangerous to victimize yourself because you deny yourself from agency. And there's this woman in India who just do this thing very well. They dress in pink and they carry their sticks and they beat up every single man who abuses women, rapes women, sexually abuses women in every single way, and it works. So I was thinking about this idea of external power and fighting and everything, and I wanted to bring this thing towards me. How do I find internal power in myself? I started thinking about women like Brenda Fassie, who, by virtue of existing and being in a space, they were strong, and I wanted to find that strength inside of me. So I started thinking about my aunts, how they were always flamboyant and so beautiful and glamorous, yet they were so strong. And I started taking pictures of myself, kind of imitating this nature of strength. And so I started taking these photographs, and I was going through them with my mentor, and she said something to me. She's like, Sandy, as much as these women that you're capturing are so beautiful and they're so glamorous, there's something about them. They're listening. And this is something really important. It really sums my work up. As much as I talk about fear and trauma and silence, these characters are the listeners. This is something we all yearn for when we're going through things. We want that person to listen to us. We want someone who will believe us. And this character of Magazi does that. Thank you.